Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We are your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is the 3rd of January. We haven't seen you since last year. I know, I couldn't help that joke. You know what? It was a funny joke, and you guys laughed. All right.
Even more funny is Bill and Hillary's house caught on fire.
It did do that. Yes.
A small fire broke out in the U.S. Secret Service facility on the property of the home of Bill and Hillary Clinton in Chappaqua, New York.
You know, you can always hope for it to be a massive blaze that tears the entire thing down, and you're hoping for the picture, and it really just ended up being a small fire.
At home in Chappaqua, New York, that is associated with Bill and Hillary Clinton.
It's associated with them.
Now under control, that there are no injuries.
I'm in association with a house.
President or former Secretary of State were actually home at the time.
Probably not.
Secret Service facility.
Very interesting. You know, they were probably trying to bake something, and those kitchen fires, even though it was in a bedroom. What were they doing in a bedroom? With fire. Smoking pot. Trying to melt their heroin on their spoon. I don't know. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. Why? Why was there a fire in the bedroom of the Secret Service? I have no idea.
I don't know what's going on, man. This is one of those, like, I thought it was fake news.
Of course it seems like it's fake news. And then it's not. And then it really wasn't that big of a deal. So, I don't know. Maybe it's a diversion.
It's a diversion. I don't know. Bill and Clinton.
Billy and Clinton. Because she's just Clinton now at this point. There's no longer a Bill. It's just
no one really
Bill is Bill and Hillary is Clinton.
Bill and Clinton.
Bill and Clinton.
Their house got caught. Yeah.
Their house got caught on fire. Okay, first of all, before we really get into the news, we can tell them why we're running a little bit late.
How can you be running late if you only told a couple people you weren't live at 6:30?
And that's late for them. Sean and Tracy are in the UK. They're staying up late because Tracy is now at home. She's doing very well and recovering. Sean is taking excellent care of her. And he asked me yesterday, are you going live? And I said, yes. And then we didn't. And so then I had to say no. And then I said, we'll go live early for you guys. Well, we tried. But we got a big giant, we wanted to get some hay from our hay guy, Donald, excellent, wonderful hay farmer that we have. And he said, well, I only have round bales today. So we had to get for those of you that aren't farmers, maybe you don't know, round bales are like a half ton to almost a ton. They're just massive. They're huge, and moving them is a chore. So I said, okay, if you can load it up in the back of Kansas's Dodge Ram with a flatbed, we can probably just roll it out, put it in we have a big tent type shed in the back, cover it up. It's great. Fine. No problem. So we get it out of the truck. Great. Fine. No problem. It kind of almost rolled over Leah, but she's fine. And we were able to roll it in there, but then we needed to turn it sideways, which we did, but then we needed to move it because things have to be neat and tidy and orderly. And
we had to fit the mower back
So then we had to put a chain around it, and we tried to move it with the Kansas was doing this. We just helped with the chain. Pull it with the mower, and then the mower was sliding in the snow. So then we're like, let's use the winch that's on the back of the truck that we never use. And so it was just a big ordeal. So sorry. That's my excuse. That's my teacher's excuse.
Some more cold weather stuff. Like my hands are just not like my feet.
Your feet.
The feeling that you get when your feet were incredibly cold. And now they're getting warmed up. But there's a specific feeling there. It's like of a cold warmness. It's weird.
Are you talking about the tingling feeling that's painful?
No, it's not painful.
Oh, because I don't like that feeling.
It just feels cold, but they're not cold.
My hands were so cold, I got into the shower the other day, and I was like, I didn't want to touch the hot water because the hot water hurt my cold hands. I was like, ah! So
I discovered that I like morning cold more than evening cold.
Maybe because the morning cold has sun with it?
I'm really warm in the morning. Like today, I was really, really hot going out there, and it was like only 10 or 11 degrees. I was like, man, I'm having a hot flash, right?
Speaking of hot flashes, Kansas loves to use niacin. It's a vitamin B, which I don't know, does it have a number to it? Niacin. And for the flush that you get, it flushes your bloodstream. It's really healthy. It's good for you. One time, there's a long story, I'm not going to tell it. He gave us like a whole one, each. And we're on our way to the Amish, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. It was so painful. It like hurts, the itching and the prickling. Well, today I'm feeling extra, trying to be healthy, whatever. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a quarter of one. And I'm out with the pigs giving them their afternoon snack. And it was a hot pot of rice that we had boiled on the wood burning stove. I'm like, man, that rice is so hot. It's like, it's steaming on my face. And then I was like, in my neck, and then it just started moving, and I'm out there, and it's like 20 degrees, and I'm just taking everything off, and I'm like itching, and I'm bending over, and I'm throwing snow on my face. And this is not a joke, I really did this. I'm stuffing it in my neck, and I really did, and it was, but see, I feel cleansed. My veins and my bloodstream feels very clean right now. So there you go. That's our story. Stories for the day.
So maybe some of you have heard of Little Button Man.
Little Button Man. Hang on. I have a beef though with our local news station, because my uncle watches television and his bedroom door is often open, so I get little blips here and there. And I find this statement incredibly inappropriate, but I'm going to say it on air because they said it on the news. And this is about this issue. They lead into the story and they say, and this is a woman news anchor on our local TV station that is pretty conservative. I think it was like Channel 12. And she goes, apparently size really does matter. And then says that Trump tweets out saying that his button is bigger than Kim Jong-un's button. And I was deeply offended by that statement. And I just kind of thought to myself, so this is where we've gotten to. This is where we've come to.
All gloves are off.
On our conservative news station, they can lead with something, in my opinion, that's very crude. And they did. But I think it's one of those talking points. I'm going to guess that every news affiliate, what is that, CBS, had that same talking point spilled out to them.
That's how they roll.
And if I was the news anchor on that television station, I would quit my job if I had to say lines like that. But, okay, there you go. Tell them about the tweet.
So, what's incredibly interesting is shortly after Trump tweeted out his I have a bigger button tweet, they opened up there's a line. There's a line between North Korea and South Korea that has been, like a communication line, that has been shut off. Right. And North Korea opened that back up and said, maybe we're open to talking to you. So, of course, the narrative is going that Trump making a stand had something to do with it. They're putting 2 and 2 together. Maybe it equals 4. I'm not sure. Dude, all I know is that if I was an Olympic athlete, I ain't going to South Korea, man. I'm not going.
No, not ever.
Not going, man.
Not for the Olympics. Not for anything.
But Kim Jong-un wants to send a delegation of athletes or something down. I'm just wondering how. Like,
they have athletes in North Korea?
I don't even know. Can they run? Do they have enough
do
food
they get
to
food?
Run? I don't know how.
What is the competition? How to be the skinniest? I mean, what? Like, seriously?
I don't know.
How to fit through the smallest hole?
Shortly after President Trump claimed that the nuclear button on his desk is much bigger and more powerful than the button on the desk of North Korea's Kim Jong-un, the North demonstrated an eagerness to directly thaw relations with its southern neighbor when Pyongyang was first to use a border hotline with the South, which resumed operation after an exchange of messages between Pyongyang and Seoul.
Pyongyang! Isn't it just Pyongyang?
Yeah.
Pyongyang.
Reportedly spoke for 20 minutes to make sure that the line works. The South and North Korea made their first contact at the border of... They made contact at the border via a communication channel with Pyongyang, brought back online earlier on Wednesday. Yonhap reported South Korea's unification ministry said that a North Korean official first contacted the South side via the channel. The conversation was meant to pave the way for official talks between the two sides about sending a delegation from the North to next month's Winter Olympics in the South. I'm not sure that's a good idea. It's going to be embarrassing. Just embarrassing.
Speaking of embarrassing.
Was that Jasper really? Okay, don't say it.
No, that's what that is.
Stop! According to the statement issued by an unnamed northern official, future discussions will focus on sending North Korean athletes to She just came inside, by the way. Pointing Winter Olympics, which will kick off in South Korea next month. The North will open dialogue at 7 a.m. GMT. What time is that? Good
Great Mountain Time.
I'm not sure.
Greater Mountain Time? Something like that.
Still, the U.S. remains skeptical. Nikki Haley warned on Tuesday that the U.S. is hearing reports that North Korea might be preparing for another missile test. So, we shall see how it goes. The other big news, weird things are happening today. A story broke, and of course, when these things happen, they mess with everybody's head. It's been designed. They design these things to mess with our heads. But I guess some guy named Wolf. He's Crying Wolf. Isn't that a perfect name?
Aww.
I believe he's Crying Wolf. But anyways, he wrote a book about Donald Trump. I forget what he called it now at this point.
Really?
Fire and Fury or something.
You're a really great reporter.
I know. Well,
what's more, I don't even know.
But anyways, he quoted Steve Bannon as saying that the meeting
between Jared Kushner,
Jared Kushner and Donald Trump Jr.
Right.
And the Russian was, to quote him not really closely,
treasonous.
He said, "If I don't know what you call it. Do you call it treasonous? Do you call it un-American, unpatriotic, or whatever?
What's happening here?
Whatever you call it." He says it's no good.
Here.
And Donald Trump came out with a harsh statement and said that Steve Bannon has lost his mind.
Grenfell, meantime.
I'm just saying, you talk about Clinton's fire in the house, so kind of fire.
No, we're not talking about that.
We just did.
Oh, because I'm thinking seances, witchcraft, candles. They got their.
That's it. Why didn't we even think of that?
And then she doesn't understand. She didn't. You know, she's like, "What happened? What happened?" Because she knows the devil's going to try and kill her because she failed the devil.
You know, leave it to Patriot Gallery to come up with the real answer.
That is so it.
They were having a seance. Greenwich Mean Time. Greenwich Meridian Time line. Okay, thanks. Greenwich. Why? Somebody said Grenfell. That's the tower. Grenfell Tower that had the fire.
Totally.
You know what? I just read what these people wrote me.
Would you stop itching?
I'm sorry. I have an itch. I had one itch. I scratched for like 1 second with a scratch.
4, 5, 6.
My elbow had an itch. You know what, sister? I'm taking over this show.
I don't know. Something's going on all over the world right now. I don't know. But Donald Trump and Bannon, it's actually kind of weird, and I don't know what to make of it. So, Alex Jones had on. I just listened to Patriot Gallery had him on. I just listened to Alex Jones, and my brain is not firing on all cylinders. It's still thawing out.
Oh my gosh!
Who do you have on?
It's the guy with the beret. It's leaving my head. Mom, what's his name? Who? With Owen.
Owen Schroeder.
But the one that no.
Roger Stone.
Roger Stone. Dang, we are really firing on.
Michelle wanted to go live. My brain is
cylinder.
not firing right now. I know the information. It is not going from here.
You know what, Leah?
Because the pipeline is frozen.
Look inside here. Look inside here. Look. All those little people in there right now, they are family. They don't care that your brain is not exactly...
This video is not going viral. Let's just say that.
It will be. This will be the video that goes viral and gets many, many views and 0 subscribers. Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so Roger Stones was on Alex Jones, and Roger Stones is in the end, and he knows Steve Bannon personally. He was in Donald Trump's, campaign, and he thinks that most likely Bannon was taken out of context and misquoted, but we're all waiting to see what Bannon has to say, because we know, if you follow Breitbart, they have no love for Jared Kushner.
Right.
But they have yet to throw Donald Trump Jr. under the bus.
Right.
We, from the very beginning, have not liked Jared Kushner. And Bannon hasn't liked Jared Kushner. For Bannon to come out and say that Jared Kushner's dealings, his real estate dealings with the 666 property. Who buys a property at 666?
Well, and he's received funding from George Soros.
And he has.
as, blatant as it gets.
But Donald Trump Jr., he's a patriot. I love his tweets. I love to follow him. I think he's really on board with Make America Great Again. I think he's fantastic. So, but Donald Trump came out in a disappointing kind of manner and
I was really disappointed with that.
Bannon under the bus. And again, he threw Roy Moore under the bus too, and because he was angry at Bannon. And now everybody thinks that Bannon lost that seat, but they're not seeing that it was a total setup.
Right. Whether Bannon had gotten behind Roy Moore or not, they would have attacked Roy Moore in the exact same manner.
Well, yeah, and it's not even, Roy Moore might have won the runoff. Who knows with the other dude. I don't even know his name now. But he was a Mitch McConnell puppet. And
right.
Every time Donald Trump takes a swipe at Roy Moore losing, it's like he's smacking every Make America Great person in the face because the other guy wasn't Make America Great. Not Doug Jones. The other guy who was in the runoff with the Republican
right.
runoff. And he's really smacking the people of Alabama. So I'm really hoping that works out. I don't want to leave you with depressing news here. So the good news is I really think that from what I've been trying to follow on Twitter, and we're just waiting for Bannon to come out and say and to kind of clear the air. I do think that every time there's this is not a story. It's not a story. If Bannon said it, it doesn't really make it. It made it in a book a while ago, and it's
right.
in print now.
Right.
It's old news. It's old news, and so somebody at The Guardian got a hold of this book early, and other people have already come out and said that they've been misquoted. And people get angry, and people say things, and you can never take hearsay.
Well, it's just... And
Bannon didn't say it. It's what I'm saying. It's in a book.
It's not like there's a video clip of Bannon himself saying this.
And we can't even see in context in how things were said.
Because not everybody's going to have a copy of the book for you to go back and read. But I know we say this a lot on the show, but it bears repeating. It's just like in a courtroom
right.
where a lawyer throws something out that he knows is going to get stricken, he or she knows is going to get stricken from the record, but it doesn't matter as long as the jury heard it. And that is exactly what happened to Roy Moore.
Right.
And the exact same thing that they're trying to do to Bannon. The person that wrote the book, we don't even know. They're not going to care one way or the other. And the person that's pulling this to the surface, they're not going to care one way or the other.
Right, exactly. And so there's so much going on right now with the Fusion GPS and Clinton and Huma Abedin. Well, the main story, I don't see these liberals at all tweeting out that Huma Abedin, we haven't come to you guys yet, she was given codes to unlock super high sensitive documents. She sent those codes to her Yahoo email account.
You know what? We have a Yahoo email account. I wouldn't send like a recipe to that thing. I mean, I'm serious.
Shortly after she did that, a Russian who was the security guy from a firm who paid Bill Clinton $500,000, the head security guy of that firm was the Russian guy who hacked the millions of Yahoo accounts, including Huma Abedin's, with the goal of not getting the little people's emails, but of fishing for state heads and people like Huma Abedin.
So it seems to me that she probably did it as a way to launder information and look like she was innocent.
Well, she could have done it. She definitely could have done it but we're not talking about that. That trended on Twitter for a second, and liberals and Democrats don't care. And, of course, it's like Twitter death fight over Steve Bannon. Every liberal is like, oh, I love Breitbart now, and blah blah blah. And it's just to get under our skin.
Stacey says the whole lot of DC fools are all Yahoos,
and we just can't let them get under our skin.
Nice play on words there.
So I want to show you guys something that's real, and something that's real news that is horrible. And I wanted to bring it to you right when it happened, but we didn't have, or right when it came out. On New Year's Eve, right. On New Year's Eve, there were obviously migrants and Muslims and people doing bad things all over Europe.
Yep.
But in France, in a particular no-go zone, which actually there is an app that you can get in France to tell you when you might be walking into one of these urban zones that are unsafe.
It's starting to happen here in Ohio. We were out. Was that just last night?
Yeah.
We were out last night in a part of town that we never go to. It's kind of ritzy. Can I say where it was?
Mason, Ohio.
Mason, Ohio. And we are looking for a consignment store. And it pulls us into this like shopping center. It
said Halal Taj Mahal restaurant, new.
And I was like, what? It's a Muslim restaurant. And I'm like, of course, this is Michelle, completely politically incorrect. And I'm just going on and on and on in the car. And then we go around the corner and there is a halal grocery store. And then then there was a bakery where the sign
it looks, yeah.
That said, welcome, and above it, it was written in Arabic.
A huge Arabic letter.
It literally was like this big. And literally, we're in the car, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's happening here! It's happening in Ohio! It has begun. They're coming for us. They are coming. I mean, literally, this is a 20-minute drive from where we live.
And
it's happening.
And here's the thing. We were able to kind of drive away, and we don't... We're not going to, talk about it. We're not going to sound...
And we were in the Menards, and we just so happened to see... And I smiled at her, because I'm a very nice person.
I thought we were in IKEA.
We were in IKEA? No, we were... Was it IKEA or Menards?
IKEA with
IKEA when she was wearing her headscarf. And we only commented on it because the child had a nice winter hat on, and she had this really thin scarf covering, and then we're walking around like, seriously, the women can't even wear a daggone winter hat. Like, why do they have to wear the scarf?
Here's the thing. That's what Michelle and I were talking about.
Why can't they cover all the hair?
Says that they have to have a head covering.
It's freezing outside.
Why can't they wear anything, any hat?
Right.
Why does it have to be a certain headscarf that chokes them around their neck?
Right.
Comes right down to here. It's because it's become a religious symbol. Not even anything that Allah, if there was an Allah, would have made people wear.
And that's why she can't have a warm head covering. She can't wear just like a hat, man, and like a scarf wrapped around her neck. Because I can tell you, I've covered up every square inch of my hair this winter. Okay, because it's just too daggum cold to have any hair popping out. So it literally is. So it started out with that.
The thing of it is that people wouldn't be able to identify her as Muslim if she wore a Western hat.
Yeah, maybe she could wear the Western hat and put the scarf over top of it.
So here we are.
So my point is, it started with that, and then we saw the Taj Mahal halal restaurant, and then we saw the grocery store, and then we saw the sweet store.
And then I said, we just drive away. Whereas
y'all
people in London
can't get nowhere. Can't get away from it. It's sad.
And it's okay to not want to be around people. Okay.
Oh, I can't.
You know
I'm
what?
not watching it.
This isn't it. This isn't the whole one. I want you to see the whole thing.
I
It starts. I want you to see where it starts. Hang on, guys.
I do not want to watch it. We're gonna watch it.
Yeah, French policewoman. Here we go. I thought I brought up the whole thing.
So New Year's in France was not exactly all sunshine and roses and fireworks. Let's just say that.
Here we go. So they turned over a police car, acting like if you don't want to be called a pack of hyenas
Or apes.
then you don't act like that. This is how it went one video after another. It's probably better if you watch it. It'll come, here it is.
And why was she by herself? And where was he being beaten as well? And why were they just by themselves?
So they're just smacking her, kicking her. Why?
She's screaming. You can hear her screaming.
Oh, you can definitely, yeah. You should just listen for a second.
Oh, just listen to it again. That's great. It's really enjoyable.
I want to play.
So it's like, what is actually going on? This was just New Year's Eve. The cops were there to keep the peace. And these Muslims turn over a police car and just start beating the heck out of these two police officers.
Called to a particularly rowdy part of France.
And I'm wishing that they had been sent
as a no-go
as a pack of police officers.
Exactly, and she and another male police officer were taken to the hospital.
Thank God she wasn't killed.
1,000 cars were set on fire in France. However, the French leadership is saying it's just basically kids having fun and it's no big deal because they set the cars on fire and they run away.
No, well, not when they start beating police officers.
Well, no.
And why is setting cars on fire okay?
Setting cars on fire is not a thing.
You really have to play it over and over again.
Well, it's really...
Don't play it again.
I won't play it again. It's so shocking to me that I'm hoping and praying that there's any good of this, that the French will wake up. They will say enough is enough. These particular people here in school, right? When one kid does something, it ruins it for everybody.
Right.
So when you have a pack of African migrants doing something, you ruin it for the good African migrants who might be fleeing things, okay?
Right.
Fleeing for a good life. But
here comes Patriot Gallery.
I'm just saying, you said a pack of young men like this that's an army. So you call out your National Guard or you call out your army and you take these people down like
Zoe just said that. She's like, they all charged. It's like an army. That's exactly what she just said.
To fight them.
Right. So are you going to pull up the...
I have it up.
Okay, good. Go there.
So Justin sent us this. 2 French police shoot themselves dead on New Year's Day following a record 66 suicides in 2017 after officers were allowed to take their guns home due to a terror threat.
But I think that I don't even like
that really
weird title because somehow they're blaming their suicide on them being able, like, somehow, I don't know. You know what? If we're going to try to protect against this terror threat, then our officers are going to use these guns.
Police
and so our officers having
America
guns make it, you know, and I don't know. It just feels like
their cars and guns home and they're not shooting themselves.
Our dad's girlfriend of so many years that we always just called her our stepmom, she was a police officer and she always brought her gun home.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
guns don't kill people. If these police officers shot themselves, it's not because the gun just went off and they decided, I have
maybe
a gun.
You need to reassess why your police officers are wanting to kill themselves in the first place. Perhaps it's because they're not given the proper measures to protect themselves in instances like the woman that was just beaten.
So a father of 3 in his 40s shot himself in Dunkirk. Another in his 50s used his service weapon to kill himself in the Brittany region. 2 suicides in 2018 follow a record 66 similar deaths over the course of last year. Comes after police were allowed to take home their service weapons in the wake of Paris attacks and an uptick in violence against officers.
And you know what? I believe that this violence against officers wears on the officers.
Yeah.
And so they should be given their weapons to protect themselves.
Right.
This is ridiculous.
So here's... let's see. The deaths come amid an uptick of violence. This is taken of the woman being beaten.
Speaking of mosques, it says no Fourth Amendment in France. Bust them mosques, says tax-paying contributor. When we were leaving Mason, we saw the big giant mosque.
That's been there since I was a kid.
I know, but it was like, it all made sense. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. My entire life, if I saw a mosque or a Muslim,
it didn't bother me.
It didn't bother me and it didn't faze me. But it's almost like they were building these massive sleeper cells. And they've been turned on, triggered. You know?
Jasper, totally going to be taken off of YouTube now.
Yeah, well.
It comes after French police were given permission to take home their service weapons. These disturbing figures have also been accompanied by an increase in violence against those upholding law and order. This week, video emerged of a woman officer being beaten. We told you about that. Emmanuel Macron, soy boy, didn't have much to say at all. You know, these people, they will be sought after and punished. La-di-la-di-la. If Marine Le Pen were present, you know how this would have gone down.
You know what? If Marine Le Pen was president, this would not have gone down.
Right.
That's just as a fact.
Yeah. France was in an official state of emergency up until last year following a series of Islamic State and Al-Qaeda terrorist attacks. Some aimed directly at police. Neglected suburbs on the edge of major cities, including Paris, have also become increasingly dangerous places for officers to even patrol. It has all led to the suicide risk of French police officers. You're stuck in a socialist government where when you have a job, that's kind of like it. Jobs and starting your own business isn't a real thing.
Right.
In Europe and the Brits that I've talked to, same thing for you guys. You're kind of like stuck. You pick your profession and you're there. And so when you try to think outside the box, like, America, we have a lot of problems. Okay. We want to get rid of we want all of our freedoms back. However, when we look across the world, we realize that we have more freedoms.
True.
Than the rest of the world.
Right.
And we want to bring you guys up, and then all of us together go to where we can have what our founding fathers envisioned.
Bingo.
Once again.
I like it.
Speaking of that, that is why I am drawing attention to the Iran protests. Now, we showed you... Did we show you? No, we didn't show you. Did we show you? Yeah,
we did.
The woman waving the flag.
We did. We showed
it was last Wednesday. She took off. It was white scarf Wednesday in Iran. My Stealthy Freedom encourages women to wear white headscarves. This particular woman put it on a stick and waved it on the same day that other protests had come out over economic reasons, corruption,
right.
And then all these videos started surfacing. And
at first the mainstream media was completely silent about it.
Exactly. And
then they decided, you were logged into my Facebook, by the way.
That's why.
That. Then they decided, you know what? We have to twist this.
Yeah.
And they completely lied about it. And we covered this, the other day, I think it was New Year's Eve, that they were saying that it was pro-government rallies. There's Jasper.
So, I don't really get in too many little arguments on Facebook. We have a bunch of Caitlin's people who don't watch any of our videos, but they read lots of our posts, which is hilarious because there's only so much I can put in a post, and it's hard to really get your perspective out there. But they are all convinced that the Iranian protests are part of a CIA PSYOP, and not PSYOP, not even a CIA coup, regime change coup. And I get why they think that, because Nikki Haley's coming out. I understand that, there's a huge anti-Semitic portion that thinks anything that Benjamin Netanyahu does is evil. And he came out in support of the Iranian protesters. Donald Trump has come out several tweets in support of the Iranian protesters. And I just want to do a real rundown, just really quick. In 1979, there was, and we played this video, played lots of videos, there was a regime change that our CIA helped put in an Islamic government. Iran doesn't want to be Islamic, a half of it at least, 3/4 of it, I would say.
A good portion
a good
of it.
quarter of it still does. And so you have people within a country wanting to rule over other people within the country. I think that you have that kind of good versus evil wherever you're at.
Well, and the point that you made the other day is still valid. If the CIA, and they did, made this regime change in 1979, what has changed now? Okay, 40 years later almost. Why would they put this regime in only to be like, you know what, psych, 40 years later, we want to change it up again. I don't think that is the case.
Right. I'm sure that, civil unrest, I think there's a lot of actors, and I try to tell people there's layers. There's not good versus evil here. There's not right and wrong even. There's a lot of layers and a lot of players and a lot of people who want the oil. And so you have to take one thing at a time and take one layer at a time. And so the layer that I know, as I've been following these My Stealthy Freedom women, who are for all intents and purposes, not right-wing conservative type people. They're more left-wing socialists. They, however, I stand with the Iranian women when they demand freedom and they demand not have to wear the hijab.
And they demand to be treated as a citizen. Right.
So I'm going to play this video here, and this is the woman who heads up my Stealthy Freedom, and I'm going to read this for you here. She says, in English, insightful. Some of the major reformist figures in Iran who have asked for a more heavy-handed approach in dealing with the ongoing protests in Iran on the grounds that they are damaging public property and public goods by protesting. This woman responds, public property is the psychological state of these poor and hapless people who you have been damaging over the years. So I'm going to turn this down. As you can see, these people are fed up for being discriminated. These people have been forgotten. This includes retirees, deposit holders, and even, as you can see here, this demonstration took place 2 weeks ago. People demonstrated for Reza Shahibi, labor rights activist who had a stroke in prison. Demonstrators were worried about him. These people were either attacked or arrested. People demonstrated against acid attacks, but authorities attacked these demonstrators. Another picture, deposit holders whose savings were lost in banks that went bankrupt. So this is Mashi. He said these people have been demonstrating time and time again for their demands. No one heard their voices. There are claims that demonstrators are troublemakers or damaging public goods. Look, today, Rohini said those who have recently been demonstrating in the streets are a small minority of people who insult the values of the revolution and who are difficult to amass. Are people garbage so that they can be amassed? I don't know how to say that. I had similar things to say in 2009 during the Green movement as well. He compared protesters with dirt and dust and that they should be amassed. They will keep using this accusation against future protests. When I made videos myself, I always made sure to highlight respect for public goods. In White Wednesdays, women took off their veil in the most peaceful way possible. They took their videos and there was no violence. I don't approve of violence. I told everyone to respect public goods. But what is public goods? Whose damage is it? Our ruined psychological health has become public goods. Public goods is the money they spend on embellishing mosques with gold, while I grew up having to share my clothes with my siblings. They never let us criticize those golden domes. Public goods is our oil money. Public goods is the money that deposit holders lost, the embezzlement case of billions of dollars. It is the money that the well-connected squander to study in the U.S. Ms. Abkar claims protesters are taking directives from Saudi Arabia. Strangely, her son lives in the U.S. and he can go back and forth to Iran. Public goods includes our money spent in Syria, Lebanon, and Gaza. While they ignored earthquake survivors in Iran, public goods includes bad infrastructure. How about the destruction of satellite dishes by the authorities belonging to citizens? It is also billions of dollars allocated to religious organizations led by notable clerics. Public goods is also the money they give to enforce the compulsory dress. These ordinary citizens have seen their properties damaged by the authorities. Public goods is the money that they spend on illiterate clerics to give guilt trips to people on TV. They involve religion in every single aspect of our private life. They allocate our budget as they see it fit. Public goods is our educational system forcing us to lead double lives. We are forced to become liars. My childhood was public goods, my youth. How can they ask people to... These are poor people. Makes me think of my own poverty stricken... Oh, see. I think it's getting mixed up.
The last line just stuck there.
Yeah. I also reflect on why I have been exiled for 8 years. Why can't I return to Iran? There's a bunch of other reformists she's naming. These reformists are paving the way for the arrest of these protesters. Interrogators from Revolutionary Guards will definitely raise the accusations leveled by these reformists. Strangely, in 2009, these reformists, like Mrs. Kadiver and Mrs. Ebkar, contacted foreigners to relay the list of protesters killed in demonstrations. Now they have joined the Revolutionary Guards to hurt poor workers, women, and children. I love this woman. And so I do get frustrated at the liberal Bernie people who they just want to close their eyes and they want to put their head in the sand when it comes to when people in the Middle East are crying out. And
it doesn't make any sense to me, because out of all of the things, and this is my humble opinion, out of all the things going on in the world, there are a few top areas where our hearts should bleed for injustice. What's happening to the people in North Korea, poverty, and AIDS in Africa, and the oppression of women in the Middle East. And I mean, sorry to give like a Miss America spiel there, but seriously, we see these liberal elites in the United States, these women that think that we are somehow oppressed. I could be a doctor if I was smart enough. Okay, I could do anything that I want to do, even as a white female. The sky is the limit. If I wanted to go after something, I could do it. I came from government housing, people. All right, so I know that from the bottom, you can get to anywhere you want to go in America. We are not oppressed as women.
If you're willing to do.
If you're, I'm just saying, there is no oppression, and these are real issues. And instead, the mainstream media is covering whether Donald Trump left something on the floor and the staff picked it up and he wanted it on the floor.
Or whether Steve Bannon said, it was treasonous to meet with John Jr. They're trying to bring this Russian collusion thing back up again.
They never, ever talk about real issues. And I have to tell you, the cure for poverty or even the cure for AIDS or something like that, or to help the Middle East, there are answers that could be had if the rest of the world was awoke. That's all.
Yeah, so somebody has been sharing a article that Iran actually decided not to prosecute people for not wearing the hijab, and somebody put that on one of my deals. And I commented back, I said, please tell me that you actually read the article. I don't always have time to read articles that people post, and I really usually don't ever do it. But I did. I read this one. And she's like, but look, they couldn't have been protesting because women who violate Tehran dress code won't be arrested for the first time in nearly 40 years. And she said, listen, if you're going to post an article and you're going to fight with somebody and you're going to use it as an article to disprove someone else.
Right.
You got to read it. You got to read it, baby.
It's hard to be stupid sometimes.
So I'm going to read it to you.
I know.
Police in the Iranian capital will relax the strict Islamic code. For nearly 40 years, women in Iran have been faced being arrested for failing to observe the conservative country's strict Islamic dress code. But now, police in the capital of Tehran have announced that they will no longer detain women who violate the code, which includes a ban on nail varnish, nail polish, heavy makeup, and loose headscarves. Now, if you did read the first few paragraphs, you would say, wow, right?
Yay!
You got to read on if you're going to use an article to fight with somebody about it, okay?
Yeah.
It comes after decades of struggle from Iranian women, including protests and demonstrations, which have seen a surge from millennials in recent years, largely thanks to social media. Now, quoting, those who do not observe the Islamic dress code will no longer be taken to detention centers, nor will judicial cases be filed against them, says Tehran's police chief.
Wow.
Previously, women who broke the dress code have typically been held by police. Their families are called to bring them a change of clothes, and they are required to sign a form saying they won't violate the dress code again. Based on a society-oriented educational approach, the police will not arrest those who don't respect Islamic values. It will instead educate them.
Oh.
So this is what will happen instead. According to reports, women who fail to observe the dress code and wear nail polish and don't wear the headscarf
And too heavy makeup.
they might not be thrown into a van. However,
That's good.
they will instead have to attend classes on Islamic values given by the police. Now, if that's not the same as being arrested, I don't know what is. The police come to me and say, I'm not going to arrest you and put you in a car, but you're going to have to come with me voluntarily.
Well,
and
I
if you
brainwash
don't,
you.
and if you don't come with me voluntarily,
Right.
I'm going to arrest you. So they're still going to be arrested. Do you not understand? This woman who commented, her name was Teresa. Honey, Teresa, I know you don't watch my videos. You just read the stuff.
Actually, she doesn't read much.
You didn't read. She obviously doesn't read much. You didn't even read your own article that you posted.
Either that or she's okay with the training.
Women who offend repeatedly could be subject to legal action, and the easing of the dress code only applies within the capital. There's a whole daggum country. Only in Tehran do you not get thrown into the van.
And it's probably
But you will be
because-
thrown into the van if you don't come with me for our re-education. So we will sit down there and we will say, you must be Islamic. Girl, you are bad. You are bad whore. You not wear the hijab. You will be raped. And that's what they will teach them, Islamic values. And they will shove it down their throats. Re-education, you see.
Right.
Re-education. They were going to take an educational approach.
Now, the reason that I think that it's in the
I'm
capital,
so frustrated at people.
I think they can tell,
No!
is because that's where the world is going to be most likely to look to. This is the front. All right, this is the family foyer. This is what you see when you show up there. And so there are going to be foreign dignitaries.
Right.
This is the place where they're going to have to ease it up in order to look at least
But it's
halfway normal.
That's not being eased up.
I know.
If you don't wear it, we're still going to take you down to the popo and re-educate you. You still...
kind of-
the
you know what
police
it
are
is?
still involved in this. Do you not understand?
I actually almost just kind of made a stupid, but I'll tell you what it was. I was going to say, it really reminds me of those like heavily religious sects where they have to re-educate you. You know what I mean? Like whether you're in the Amish or whatever, and you go to leave and then you have to be re-educated. I'm like, hang on, wait a minute. It is. The Islamic State is a religious government.
Cult.
And so that's why it reminded me of that. And I'm like, it really reminds, oh yeah, that's why.
And the reason that in Germany and in France and the UK, they have to crack down on people like us for spreading the truth is because if the truth is out there, people will start to look at Muslims differently. They will look at them like you would look at a polygamous
Right.
Mormon sect in Utah.
You kind of look at because apparently they say that's not practiced in Mormonism. That's fine. Okay, that's
There
cool.
still are crazy Mormon
Whenever
sects
you
out there.
hear Mormons, you kind of just go, oh,
Right.
just because of the stigma there,
Right.
you know? And
Okay,
so-
there's more to this. Other sexist laws ban women from attending sporting matches because, in part, politicians believe women shouldn't hear men swear.
Good. Okay. Could we maybe just invoke a non-swearing ban?
That would probably be more fair.
Yeah.
Definitely more fair.
Not the women can't go because the men are going to swear, but how about the men just can't swear? Like put like a, the swearing jar.
It used to be
They could just fine them.
that males didn't swear in the presence of a lady, which is kind of a nice, thing that you didn't have to enforce. Just It was well known.
Right.
And remember, women can't travel abroad without the permission of a male relative.
True. Running Out of Air says re-education camps? No, more like concentration camps, girls.
And by the way, the moral dress code that we showed you some videos of people. Hey! What's going on over there?
We're sharing
the food. No, we don't eat out of the same bowl, Jasper.
Jasper, come here.
Did you know that the men were upset about the moral law too because they're not allowed to wear shorts. And they're not allowed to go shirtless either.
You know what? It's fair play in Iran. If the women have to wear and then the men, you know what? And here's the thing. I think that might be in part why the men are upset also. Not just because they're defending their wives, which is awesome and wholesome and wonderful, but they are under a restriction as well. And they're tired of it. And I would be too.
I don't wear shorts, man.
Yeah.
So, Justin sent us this as well. This imam apologizes for a call to kill the Jews over Trump's Jerusalem decision. He apologized. I'm sorry I went too far. I said, kill him. An imam in Texas. I'm just wondering what his little mosque is like. Has apologized for saying that Muslims had a duty to kill Jews. I'm sorry, it doesn't cut it.
Yeah, because if you said it to start with, then you probably meant it.
In reaction to Donald Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, Imam Reed Salih al-Rushan made the inflammatory comments in a sermon, because that's usually what happens in sermons. Go thou kill thy neighbor. That's why Christianity and Islam don't really mesh together.
Yeah.
My brothers, the Prophet Muhammad brought the good tidings when he said, Judgment Day will not come until the Muslims fight the Jews. Al-Rusa said, according to the Middle East Media Research, memory. The Muslims will kill the Jews, and the Jews will hide behind the stones and the trees. And the stones and the trees will say, O Muslim, O servant of Allah, there is a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill him. This is the promise of Allah.
Wow.
Yeah. After drawing international criticism, Al-Rusan of the Tajweed Institute in Houston,
that's in America,
has rode back on the controversial remarks. It must be understood that I unequivocally affirm and uphold the dignity, sanctity, and value of all human life, including, of course, people of Jewish faith. I must also state in no uncertain terms that I am absolutely and completely opposed to and disgusted by all forms of terrorism, all terrorists, and I oppose anyone who will commit, call for, or threaten violence against civilians.
Then why did you say it to start with?
I'm not going to play his video. The imam said that he is mortified that his sermon was interpreted as a call for the very things he despises. He wants to establish new and meaningful relationships. And that the apology was rejected by the Houston's Anti-Defamation League, says he doesn't fully understand the ramifications of his sermon.
Yeah.
We would like him to unequivocally apologize to the Jewish community for his highly inflammatory. That's not highly inflammatory. Listen, if I go out and say, Jesus ain't coming back till we go and kill all the Muslims.
Now they're going to cut that and you're going to get arrested.
I know. Guess what? Jesus ain't coming back to preach the gospel to the whole world, and that includes Muslims.
True.
Preach sermons, love, kindness. Come accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior.
Or fire and brimstone.
I don't want them dead, man. I want them to know Jesus.
I like fire and brimstone.
I really don't. I love people. I want God.
If you sin, you're going to hell.
Stop.
Repent.
Stop.
For the kingdom of God is at hand.
Okay, funny
you
news.
are of your father, the devil.
Funny news, because we're not actually going to make our news segment as long as we normally do, because why? What do we have for them?
We have a New Year's greeting.
I'm actually excited. So excited
from
about this.
some of our Polish friends. And they have recorded it for us. and we're going to finish this.
It's a New Year's greeting to all of America, so I'm really hoping that this gets out there.
So that's why we want to do it just separately. We want to do it by itself. We're also going to be sharing the video itself from their page on our Facebook page, but then we're also going to play it directly for you guys to see it. So we'll probably do that in about a half hour.
Yeah, I'm hoping they don't get bad comments from our Bernie supporters on our Facebook page. I have to tell you, the Bernie supporters are on the Facebook page. They're not on the videos. They're not on my Twitter. They're just on the Facebook page. And so there's a hide button, right? So that the person who says the comment and their friends can see it, but no one else can see it. But they don't know that you hit it.
Yeah.
Is that funny?
I hide people a lot on there.
I hide comments. Yeah.
I hide I banned people on Resistance Chicks.
I try not to.
It's liberating. But if they're going to be a troll on the channel for
why
other
do people
reason,
just like there's
like you don't have any
Richard
kind of
Gere
life
on there, and all he does is post negative things over and over and over again.
I'm like, ban. There you go.
Like pro Margaret Sanger, pro eugenics. Yeah, he should be banned. He definitely should be banned. All right. So
Jinx.
This is funny. It's not funny. It's not funny. It's funny. Nobody died. Children were forced to freeze as Baltimore schools open with no heat. Baltimore students and teachers returned to school from holiday break on Tuesday, expecting to start the new year with a bang.
Bang!
But that proved an overly optimistic assumption for a collapsing school system, as the classrooms they found were flooded and the indoor temperatures were barely above freezing. Starting off on the wrong foot, Baltimore school system could be on track for a turbulent year. So I guess there's kind of a thermometer there.
Nobody thought to check before.
I don't know.
Hand.
I don't know. So
for those of you wondering, we've kind of passed the coldest part of the cold snap that we're in here in Ohio. I know Sean had asked earlier. Tracy wanted to know how the rooster
actually
was
it's
doing.
still cold for 2-3 more days.
But I mean that bitter.
No,
we had
still,
-6.
Yeah,
it's not going back down to -6,
but -1.
Okay, well I didn't know that. I thought we were at least going to be above 0. Okay, well, we're almost through. But Tracy had wanted to know how the rooster was doing.
He got a little bit of frostbite.
He still has frostbite. That's going to take a little while to heal. We should have put Vaseline on it for those of you that have chickens.
Last night.
You can do that, and it helps curb
On
that.
Tuesday, the cold weather paralyzed the school system across the city. However, schools remained open despite the horrific conditions. It was miserable. The kids had on their coats and their hats and gloves all day. Says a social studies teacher. One classroom in Frederick Douglass was completely destroyed after flooding from a burst pipe rendered the classroom unsafe. A teacher in our basement, because her room is under the flooded classroom, lost all of her materials, she said. Other teachers had to teach in the library because the classrooms were too cold.
We actually have a friend that went to that school when she was a kid.
Look at these floors.
We'll have to ask her about that.
Oh, that's so disgusting.
That's pretty bad. So Leah's right. I just checked our weather. We are going to hit -1 as a low on Friday.
Schnitter, man.
Our mom just did the same thing. She just put it in there. Patriot guy.
Added, we were shocked we weren't one of the schools sent home. He said after water damage destroyed the wrestling room and the weight room. Baltimore Brew notes the temperatures were barely above freezing inside the classrooms. The highest it got in here was 40 degrees from 7
can't do that
to 240.
to children.
It never warmed up. 4 schools closed on Tuesday for weather-related issues, but social media indicates cold conditions.
Okay, some superintendent is fired.
Spread.
Crying out loud. Oh
yeah, so social media was flooded with angry parents and teachers voicing their concern for the deteriorating school system. Baltimore Brew reports classrooms at Patterson High School, City College, and Calverton Elementary School also experienced no heat.
We have no food for this man. You have to make a pizza.
Announcement just now in a public elementary school in a major American city in 2018. Teachers, please ensure students wear sweaters, coats, hats to the cafeteria due to extremely cold temperatures. Today, on one of the coldest days of the winter, several Baltimore city schools forced students to go to schools with no heat, bursted water pipes, and cold lunches. So...
Did they just say cold lunches?
Yeah.
No, come on, man. This is
another
child
teacher
abuse.
said he lashed out at the Baltimore City schools and alerted the local media after his classroom only made it to 40 degrees. And he put out a temperature thing. Wow.
Good for
that
you,
isn't
teacher.
even a thing. How do you even think? On
You
Wednesday,
can't.
it was day 2 with no heat, and social media outbursts continue. My 6-year-old niece had to sit in school with her coat and hat on all day, no heat.
No.
I don't understand how Baltimore City schools can operate on any level with no heat.
So here's the difference. Now, when Lee and I were children, and I'm going to guess there are a lot of you in the chat here that experience this as well, our school didn't have air conditioning.
Right.
And we had to take water bottles to school when school started because it was still really hot. It was kind of partly still in summer.
Right.
And you just open up the windows and you turn the fans on. And
we didn't have air conditioning until high school.
Here's the thing. The difference is, unless you live like in the Mojave Desert, you're probably going to be okay with any kind of heat.
Yeah.
You can sweat. You can turn fans on.
Right.
You're going to be okay.
Right.
With as long as you have water.
Right.
And we always had plenty of water. Cold is not the same. Okay? It is just not the same. We have the argument, everybody, and you can put in the chat, this would be really fun, if you prefer winter to summer. And I always say, you know what? Because there is the argument, in winter you can always put on lots of layers. And I get that argument, okay? And in the summer you can only get so naked. I get that argument as well. But there's a difference. You can get really, really hot. But unless you're touching fire, there's no pain involved. But you can get so cold that you start hurting.
And you die. You frostbite and stuff.
Okay, so with the children are physically in pain. There's a difference between and pain. Like my fingers hurt, my toes are hurting, and that's why this is definitely child abuse.
Prolonged. When you're not moving, and you're sitting, especially at 40 degrees.
No, you got to get the kids up and like
really
running.
Cold all day to be at 40 degrees is really cold. It's one thing to be outside and moving, you know.
This is child abuse.
But when you go inside, you know you're going to be warm. And if it's, he says it didn't get above 40, so it probably was lower. So that's our wonderful public school
Grit
system.
Baza says, I love autumn and spring. They are the best times of year. That's cheating. Because that's a middle. It's hot or cold, man. You got to choose whether you like hot or cold. Let's see. Fall into a deep sleep and never wake up in the cold, says David. I don't know. I get it. Like, I really do get it. But I'm just saying, one's pain, and one is just uncomfortable.
Right.
There's a difference. Maia likes summer. Maia's my girl.
This was funny, by the way. I guess there's a chick out there. Her name is Chrissy Teigen. She's some famous chick. She's married to some other famous singer. Okay. So Chelsea Clinton and Chrissy Teigen were tweeting back and forth, but somehow the Church of Satan and Hooters actually got in the things where the ats. Okay. So Chelsea Clinton literally tweeted out at Church of Satan at Hooters. Same to you here. It's been a great 2018 or something like that.
So that takes us back to the house fire. I got it. Chelsea was in the room with the Satanists.
Well, this was before the fire.
Oh, well, so that's what I'm saying.
I know.
We now know officially she's got it in with the Church of Satan.
Yeah.
And
so I thought this was fake.
Right.
Like other people were tweeting this out, but it's actually a real thing that really happened.
I think at this point she just is trying to stay in the news.
Yeah.
Just for shock value,
Other news, this guy, he's been on social media the past couple days. We don't know who he is. In Manhattan. Our friend in Manhattan. Manhunt, sorry. In Manhattan, yeah. NYPD searches for ISIS sympathizer after Manhattan selfie. This is a dude wearing an ISIS thing. And the New York City Police Department is hunting for a suspected ISIS sympathizer throughout the 5 boroughs on Wednesday, launching the last-minute manhunt after an individual wearing pro-ISIS clothing took a selfie outside of a New York City museum over the holiday weekend. According to the New York Daily News, the unidentified man posed for a self-portrait outside of the Big Apple's Metropolitan Museum of Art. The suspect was wearing a headscarf emblazoned with black and white logo of ISIS. Late last year, another image with a similar logo was captured outside of the World Trade Center. The photo appeared on social media on Saturday night, just hours before the city was set to hold its Times Square.
But they can't trace the Twitter account back to.
I don't know where he posted
person.
it. I don't know where he posted it from. I wondered the same thing. So yeah, I don't know.
So back to the cold conversation here. A Squirrel says, you guys need to hire some Canadians to teach you how to have wide-spanning weather-ready infrastructure. Your situation is unbelievable for a first world country. I tend to agree. For the kids in school, I mean, this should not be happening. It shouldn't be that cold. They should already have things in place. Let's see. The rats in Washington are leaving the stinking swamp, says Western Australia Devil Hunter.
All right, so
I love these names. Sometimes
while
read
we're
it for the
here,
name.
I want to find this video where CNN got actually one thing, they got photobombed by a fake. I wonder if it actually might be on Twitter, more easily found on Twitter. So on New Year's Eve, there are two things that happened live on CNN.
They just need a lot of help. Jasper Svensson.
So the first thing was...
do you think this is why Trump tweeted out to watch Sean Hannity? He tweeted out, like, watch Sean Hannity at 9.
I tried to watch. I didn't know exactly what it was. Here, we'll just...
A free infomercial for Big Weed. Joining me now from Columbus, Ohio, is a member of that group, Corinne Gasper. Corinne, I was happily on the dance floor.
On behalf of CNN.
Well, they're saying, look, this is all fun and games, Corinne. It's legal. No, it's illegal in Colorado. It's a federal crime, by the way, still, but it's legal in Colorado. And it's now legal in California. They did big ribbon cutting ceremonies and lovely little moments all over television that night. Tell us about your own family's tragedy, as difficult as it is, if you don't mind.
Sure. My daughter, Jennifer, had just graduated from college. She was just 22 years old, on the verge of a wonderful career. She wanted to actually go out in the world and fight drugs. She began her first job, not in her field of study, but she was called into work as a district manager into one of the stores when an alarm went off. As Jennifer made her way in, she was T-boned at an intersection by a man who was traveling 82 miles an hour through a red light. My daughter's car was pushed across the road through a bunch of shrubbery, and then through the doors of a lube stop building, and the building collapsed on top of her car. My daughter lost her life that night. The man that did this was uninjured, but he was high on medical marijuana. He was given a very light sentence of just 2 years in jail. He only spent 17 months there. And now he's out and he's off parole.
It's infuriating. And all we hear about is how marijuana is the only thing you can take to ease pain, and that anyone criticizing it is heartless. And by the way, Corinne, Newsweek attacked me, and I don't really care, but I mean, I wear it as a badge of honor, but basically for having a similar reaction to the CNN coverage as you did. I tweeted out, well, we'll see how all this works out for our country. More potheads, increase in cases of schizophrenia, psychosis, more impaired driving as Big Weed makes billions. So Newsweek ran a piece with the headline, Pot Panic, Fox News' Laura Ingraham roasted after criticizing CNN New Year's Eve coverage. Well, I was hardly roasted. They pulled a few tweets out. Ooh, I'm scared. And this is what they do to you, though, if you dare to take on Big Weed.
So, a viewer of ours actually shared, I don't even know if it wants to be called out, an article on legalizing heroin. We know firsthand.
Well, no, he wasn't just sharing it. He was just like, hey, let's talk about this.
Let's talk about this. I get the legalization of pot. I understand it. I understand it's a plant that grows. I understand. But here's the thing. Unless people are smart, which usually potheads aren't. I'm sorry.
Right.
You're going to end up hurting someone somehow, some way, when you're high. I have been around high people. I don't like to be around them. I don't like to be around drunk people. I grew up around alcoholics. I'm not saying that alcohol should be banned, right? I see that cannabis has some amazing effects on people who have seizure problems. However, You
And
don't
the killing of cancer.
You don't have to smoke it
Exactly.
in order to have the medical benefits.
Bingo.
The people who are smoking it saying they're using it to relieve pain.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to smoke and get high for cannabis to relieve pain. You don't need to smoke and get high for cannabis to kill cancer. Okay? The problem is Americans, we're not real smart and getting dumber by smoking more pot. Okay? The people that I know personally that have smoked pot or do smoke pot, I wouldn't trust them to
And
watch my children.
Here's another thing
Or
about
your
that,
children.
though. I have to tell you, we have experience with people who have been smoking pot for the past 15 years.
Yes.
And when we met them 15 years ago,
Yes.
they were a completely different person.
Yes.
They have literally killed brain cells. I have seen it with my own eyes. So stating that it
sad
doesn't
to watch, actually.
it is. They're not the same person. They used to be sharp. They used to be intelligent. One person that we know of can't hold down a job anymore.
Right. When we see, actually, we probably, and we're not going to name these people, but we know a handful of people
Yeah.
who have gone down. And there are studies that especially for teenagers, and especially teenage boys who start smoking pot as a teenager,
Their brains do not
develop.
They actually stop developing at the very moment that they start smoking pot. And then it doesn't pick back up until they stop. But even then, they have already done a massive amount of damage.
Right, exactly. So what you have here on CNN, you have this CNN anchor who thought it would be funny to go to a legally pot state. She did this on purpose with pot leaf earrings. Got on this like bus with these pot smokers and even like lit something.
Oh, sorry. They probably can't hear any of this.
Randy, I don't know if you can hear me, but does this bus actually go anywhere? Does the bus go anywhere, Randy, or is the bus just standing there?
With lock-in moisture technology, after all, a cleanser is just a cleanser, unless it's over.
You want to know how to avoid return lines? Just ask for gifts you will not return.
Obviously, it's
Doctor's going to need this receipt.
from secondhand pot smoke.
Get up to 20.
I think she likes there's gotta be another piece of this because there's another piece because she actually lights one.
Paint party masterpiece reveal.
She's been riding around on a pot bus in Colorado where marijuana is legal. Randy, oh goodness, you're
That's
just
right.
giggling now, Randy.
Oh my God, Randy's dose is kicking in.
Sorry.
For Andy. Andy, this is for you.
Oh.
No, this is the
Oh
Puff
my
Pass and
God.
Pink Party. Do you want this?
Oh my God.
I can't. I don't
This
know
is
what.
CNN.
I cannot believe
Oh
this.
my God, this is
It's a pink joint.
the best. Thank you, Randy. That
someone
is a
just passed
gorgeous
this
You're the
joint.
best. That's a gorgeous joint.
Someone just
Did you
passed it
ever
to me
think
because
you
that's
would
what
see
you
this on
do.
CNN?
Here at the Puff Pass and Pink Party. You just pass it on.
Randy's
so
just going to
I'm
pass
just
it
gonna
on.
pass it on to
She's
somebody.
just going to pass it on.
I'm just going to pass. Oh,
Yes,
oh,
of
and
course.
look. And then I
She's
get
just the
another one passed to
go-between.
me. It's so funny. But here, everybody just puffs, passes, and paint. And I got to show you something else. They have a thing here called the Incredibowl. I got to show you how this works. We have a willing participant right here. If you thought this was nice, wait till you see this. Okay, let's see how it works here. This is all part of the Puff, Pass, and Paint. This is where they get their creativity.
This is where they get their creativity.
They just get it right
Oh my
in there.
God, I
and
love
She's on a bus where they're puff passing and painting, and they're painting and they're trying to be real creative.
and they paint.
This doesn't seem like a
Isn't
good
that
idea.
amazing?
You know what? I'm gonna pull this back here because it's not.
Did you hear Anderson Cooper?
This isn't awesome. That's not real creative to me. That's ugly art.
Seemed like a
Isn't
good
that
idea.
amazing? It's called the Incredible. And so the guy who teaches one of these puff pass and paint classes.
What? Horny.
Oh.
Sorry, it's not playing all the way.
This guy Mike here teaches these. I gotta pass this on. I can't hold this in my hand anymore. Thank you.
Mike.
Anyway, so you are the facilitator of fun.
Really excellent art.
Look at this art. Like, if you get high,
then you can do that.
You could be like
You can be really good at like finger painting.
It looks like the universe, like all in one. I'm gonna finish this, but I'm gonna finish it small.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I say.
And you tell them to paint. And what are your other tips?
Yeah, well, we say, it's not about the end product, it's about the journey, man. And so we want people to be one with the paint. Oh, man, that's too much math, man. That's too much math right now. It's easy.
Okay. Listen up. Did you hear this wonderfully, awesomely high person? Did you hear what he just said? It's not about the end product, man. It's about the journey. And then he just said, that's too much math. For his pot-laden head.
Now, if I had $1 for every time I heard from a pot-smoking advocate that it increases your creativity.
Oh, yeah.
And actually heightens your senses and makes you more intelligent.
Nope. And then, see, here's the thing. Fortunately or unfortunately, Michelle and I have had the privilege and the blessing to work with hands-on drug addicts, okay? Yes. God brought a drug addict into our life and opened up a whole world of drugs and drug addicts. Things that we have never known. We personally experienced. I know what it sounded like. We personally experienced the negative effects of loving someone and knowing someone who is addicted to drugs. Knowing their story intimately.
Right.
Justin, you used to watch some of his videos.
Not Justin Hughes, our Justin.
He's not afraid to tell his testimony. He lived with us. We put him through Teen Challenge. We volunteered at Teen Challenge. We made lifelong friendships with the young men at Teen Challenge. We know intimately
from their stories,
which
are consistent, and it's not just their stories, but they'll tell us stories of their friends, and it is the same story over and over and over again.
It is. It's the same story, and I have to tell you, 3/4 of those stories started out as a kid being molested, and most likely homosexually molested. These are kids dealing with pain. One of the things in the article that our friend sent about heroin is that people are dying over... This is false, by the way. I'm just going to let you know. People are dying from heroin because they come off of it, and they come back on a too high of a dose, and then they die.
And, well, the article was inferring that the reason that they come off of the heroin... Or, excuse me. Well, yeah, they come off the heroin because they can't get a hold of it. Because it's too hard to get.
Heroin is the easiest thing in the world to get. You can get it for $20 anywhere. And drug addicts know where to get it. I know.
The article was advocating the legalization of heroin because somehow that would help decrease the heroin overdoses.
Yes. Not going to happen. There is something... Okay, heroin specifically, as a drug that we know intimately now about, you're never high enough. Like, you always need a bigger dose. And that's why people go to the needles, because the other ways, they're not enough.
And here's the thing. I want to get to the article.
And then you have to do it multiple times a day. And that's why you have to do it at work. It was
saying that if you can get a pure amount of heroin and you can, get like a dose, and you just take this regular dose, then you'll be fine. And I'm like, no, any heroin addict will tell you they need more and more and more and more and more frequently. And then it leads to eventually harder drugs. And another thing that I said in response to this was this.
Crazy things.
That a lot of times these addicts don't want to be addicted, and they're not coming off because they can't get a hold of it. They're coming off of it because they are trying to get clean. Mm-hmm. So legalizing it to make it so nobody wants to be hooked on heroin. Okay? It
consumes your life. You don't get to function normally on heroin. Every thought is, when can I get another hit? When can I get another hit? When can I get another hit?
Right. And unfortunately, unless God delivers you, that
you're going to die.
Well, yes, but if you can somehow manage to stay in and out of programs, like we know some of our young men from Teen Challenge, they've been in and out of programs for 10, 14, 15 years. If you can somehow manage to stay alive and you have these clean spouts, every single day you wake up, it is there.
Right.
You're always thinking about it unless Jesus Christ delivers you.
Right.
And so this is something that should never be out there. And so I said, listen, the answer is not to legalize heroin. The answer is to stop it from coming into our country. After 9/11 in 2001, we went into Afghanistan. Since then, the opioid production has skyrocketed to the moon. And all of that opioid production or opiate, however you want to say it, has come back to America, and we are letting it in. We could stop it, and we aren't. We are funding this. And it is because of Agenda 21. It is because of depopulation. It is because of control. They want this to be happening. If they didn't want it to be happening, they could stop it like that. Because in the UK, they don't have these issues.
Well,
No, they have drugs, but they don't have these issues. Okay, they don't really have heroin. They don't really have, I think maybe you guys have crack. But most of the time, I think that the drug of choice is like speed or ecstasy or something like that in the UK. It's not that you have these massive spreading like a disease drug problems. This problem that we have in the United States that is spreading like a cancer, like a fast growing tumor, is brand new in the United States within the past decade. And you guys in the UK simply don't have it.
And I will tell you that every single hard drug addict that we know started on pot. That's like your first high. Getting high, and you guys all know this. That's why I'm bringing this. Most of you don't do drugs because you don't want to be high.
Let me rephrase this, because I got a lot of people from the UK saying, yes, we do have it. Yeah, I misspoke. And I didn't mean
That's
don't
what I was
have heroin.
about.
Of course you have heroin. But what I'm saying is, when you look at the map and you compare the United States heroin epidemic, and they have, I could pull it up. They have maps where it is literally blowing up like a balloon. You can see the spread. If you compare that to what is happening in the UK, the numbers are not at all the same. Yes, you have drug issues. Okay, yes, you have problems. But in the United States, the heroin overdose rates, the heroin usage that is spreading like a cancer, especially here in Ohio and in Kentucky, is huge. And you guys just don't have it over there because you're not willfully, your government's not trying to kill you.
Michelle, every street around us has somebody who's died from heroin.
It's not just every street. I mean, yeah, it is every single street. You could literally drive on every single street in this county, and one of those families will have someone that they know that has died of an overdose of heroin. It's everywhere. I mean, it is, there's no comparison. It is like World War II when everybody knew somebody that had died, you know, in the war. That's exactly what's happening here. Now, Britt Baza says, Michelle, heroin is a massive, serious problem in the UK, speaking from personal family experience. And I am really, really sorry that that happened to you and your family. And you may have insights that I don't because I'm not in the UK. But from what I understand in my research that I've done, when you compare it to the US, it's not the same.
In 1999, New Mexico had the worst drug overdose rate in the nation, 15 deaths per 100,000. 15 years later, the death rate would seem modest indeed. The highest drug mortality rate in 2014 in West Virginia stood at 35 per 100,000. By the following year, the drug rate in West Virginia had climbed higher to 41 per 100,000. The CDC's data also shows how the epidemic moved across the country. Back in 1999, the states with the highest drug overdose death rate were concentrated in the West: New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, where you can get the drugs coming up from the mules coming up from Mexico. 6 years later, the epicenter had reached the South: Kentucky, Louisiana, Tennessee, and Florida. By 2014, the epidemic has shifted to Appalachia and the Rust Belt, West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania. That trend grew even more pronounced the following year. I certainly worry we haven't hit the worst point, says Dr. Patrice Harris, a psychiatrist from Atlanta. I think that's the end of it. But yeah, the mortality rate for heroin has
now what's the link?
I mean, like seriously, it's literally on the front page of our Cincinnati newspaper.
It seems like
all
once a week.
the time.
It is one of the biggest
all the time. It's like the thing. It's like in the news every single day.
Now, why are we making the connection between the pot and the heroin? It's all mind altering drugs. Mm-hmm. And the argument is that pot is natural and it is safe, but I could bring in literally probably 20 different people that are still alive right now that will tell you that not every pothead becomes a hard drug addict.
Right.
But every single hard drug addict started out as a pothead. Absolutely. And given the amount of deaths and lives ruined, because it doesn't just ruin the addict's life. Every family member like Britt Baza will tell you it has ruined your life. Not only from the loss of the family member, but the years of struggle, the theft, just watching this person's life spiral down.
And the thing about being high, they've put out things about being drunk so that people, like most people who drink, call a taxi. Right. Most people I know, they stay overnight places. Even those horrible raping football players from West Virginia a few years back, or like last year, I can't remember. They raped a girl, but they were like, make sure you don't drive drunk. Like they knew, don't drive drunk.
Right.
It's okay to do crazy things, but don't drive drunk. So that's been brainwashed into people. Mm-hmm. But getting high, and people who get high, listen, we've just talked to so many people. They feel like they're invincible. They feel like they actually feel like the world is moving really, really fast. And that's why they are so slow. And everything's slow. Imagine your brain. Everything's going fast, 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 fast. But that's why when they're slowing down, because they feel like they feel like they can conquer the world.
Like they could catch a bullet or something.
But their reflexes and everything is slow.
I know.
It's retarded. And it's like when you're in the room with somebody who's high, it's like you can't have a conversation with them.
So I want to get to a couple of the comments here. Jack Russell says, totally disagree there, Michelle. Alcohol is usually the first drug in my experience. If you're counting alcohol as a drug, I agree with you there. Absolutely. Let's see. Hang on. Christopher Farina, U.S. troops are protecting poppy fields in Afghanistan at this very moment. And that is what I was talking about. They want this stuff produced and they want it brought into the United States.
If you're talking about using alcohol as a drug, that is one thing. However, there is a difference between drinking alcohol and using drugs to get high.
Right.
A lot of people that I know, they drink. I know most people do drink alcohol.
They do not.
They don't drink it necessarily to alter their minds and get high.
Right.
It's a recreational thing. Dude, it used to be that the water was poisoned and all you had was beer.
Here's the thing. Lee and I are not defending alcohol. If we could, we'd go back to Prohibition days. Let me lay that as a foundation.
Not really.
You
need alcohol.
All right. Forgive me. That was an overstatement. But my point is, I am very anti-alcohol.
Awesome.
I'm very anti-alcohol.
Right.
I want to just lay that as a foundation.
Well, we're anti-alcohol because we see that people abuse it. People are abusers. Our whole family. Right. Both our families are alcoholics.
Right.
They're just alcoholics. I don't want to be around drunk people. I don't like to be around people who, at a drop of a hat, can't drive me somewhere if like my arm falls off.
Right.
Okay? I don't like to see children around drunk people. I hate it. I hated being around my dad and my uncles and my grandparents and everybody who was drunk. I mean, it was a big soppy mess at every holiday. I despise being around people who are drunk because they're not there.
Right.
You can't talk to them. You can't have a conversation. It's all this sappy. How you doing? I really loved your mother, right?
Stop it.
I loved her.
I have zero patience for being around people that are intoxicated. I won't have them in my life. I just won't. I won't be around intoxicated people if I can help it. Likewise, I won't be around anyone that is high if I can help it. Now, this letter of the law kills, the spirit of the law brings life. Like I said, we have people in our lives. Sometimes I'm around them and whatever. Exactly. Our uncle used to drink. And so, listen, there's a lot of grace to be had. But by and large, my stance is your mind should never be in an altered state. Unless there's like an excuse for it, like you're sick and you have to take NyQuil and you might be a little off on that NyQuil. You know what I'm saying? Like seriously, but just to do it for recreation.
But to have, listen, if all you need to know is that CNN is the cannabis news network, and pot is bad.
Right.
Okay? I mean, seriously.
That's awesome. And you made these. Let me show you a couple quickly that people are working on over here.
Oh,
we don't need to
get
play
see
anymore,
them.
really.
But just to show you how, like, this is not normal.
No. And that's the thing.
Hi,
We've
people.
become so desensitized to this stuff that they can now put it on the news.
So, there you have it. Well, we can go on to some good news. We should probably go on to the Poland thing, because that's going to take like 20 minutes, right?
It is going to take a lot. But here's the thing, guys. We're not going to argue with you back and forth, drugs, no drugs, legalize pot, whatever. Like Leah said, to have the healing properties of cannabis, you don't have to smoke it.
You don't need to smoke it to get high.
And anybody that is pro marijuana, unfortunately, I don't think that you have ever had anyone in your life, or maybe you have and you're just heartless, who has gone through a hard drug addiction or lost their lives.
Listen, there was one guy who,
and spoken with these people.
I'm not going to give any names. There was one guy who was encouraging these young men, not boys.
At Teen Challenge.
There was one guy who was encouraging them and saying that pot is okay, that smoking pot was okay. And these were kids coming off of heroin and things like that. And I have spoken with a couple of my Teen Challenge friends who got out and graduated or whatever, and they were clean. And then they went back to smoking pot. And then 6 months later, we're like, what are you doing? And they got clean again. And it is called being clean. And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize just how badly smoking pot messed up my life. I wasn't thinking straight. I wasn't able to function as clear.
Well, you're going to make me angry, and I'm just going to put this out on air because it's my show and I'm not naming names, and so I think it's okay. But one of the people that was working very closely with this person that was defending marijuana overdosed and died.
Yeah.
I can't make the connection because I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm going to guess, and this is my guess and it's my show and I'm allowed to air my guess, that this person that overdosed and died that we loved very much probably went back to pot thinking that it was okay to start back with pot.
Right.
So it's my show. I can say what I want. I don't have patience for the people that think that pot is okay and have never had their heart messed up from losing a loved one from harder drugs where pot was the gateway drug to that.
Exactly. We just know these addicts. We know them personally. I can't name names for you guys. I have a wonderful Christian friend who does go and tell his testimony everywhere.
Right.
And he will say, no, you can't smoke pot. It makes you high. It's another thing that feeds that desire to go get higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. So you can stay here at a level of pot, right? But once you go up, you can't go back down and stay.
And that's the thing, because I think we have some commenters on here that are obviously pro pot. And I'm going to guess that you may be one of those people that's completely in control of yourself.
Right.
And that's fine. But it's very heartless of you to kind of put that on and say, well, you know what? Anybody else that's just their problem. You know, when we have an epidemic in our society, it seems very, very heartless.
Why do you need to alter your mind? Why? Right. God is the best high ever.
Very true. Patriot Gallery.
We're the first ones who have grace. We have grace with all these people. When they're down at their bottom, we're there to pick them up. A lot of people say they have to fall to the bottom, leave them alone, let them suffer. They'll bring themselves out, but they can't.
Right.
Once somebody's hit the bottom, they need somebody to pick them up. Right. And sometimes you have to work with them even when they're messed up and they're drinking and whatever because they need somebody to love them again. The love of God was what heals people.
I totally agree.
People who are filled with the love of God don't need pot. And so if you are smoking pot, I can tell you there is something in your life
that's missing,
that you are missing, and God can fill. And you may not be in that place where you want to be filled.
I want to warn people about encouraging this pot because, like you just said, somebody encouraged another person to smoke pot. Next thing you know, they die. Right. So if you're encouraging pot, what if somebody hears you and they are weak? Now, the Bible has a scripture about that, that everything is permissible.
Yep.
Your liberty, Jesus Christ gives us liberty, but not everything is practical. What's the scripture for that? Matt, what's the scripture for?
All things are lawful and not all things are
expedient. So it might be lawful and you might could do whatever you want with the body. But maybe that's not the very good thing to do. And don't go around encouraging other, because then you say, pot for me, pot for me. But what if somebody else hears you say that and they end up dead? That person's death is on your head.
Right.
And when you die, God knows who you said and who listened to you. And you're going to be held accountable for your words. Every single word you speak, you're accountable for.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a really particular issue, especially with libertarians who definitely want pot legalized. And I'm not actually...
whether they don't even care, they just feel like Buzzwoofer is saying that everybody should have a right to do what they want to do. That's a libertarian type mindset. And I don't fault that mindset. I totally get where it comes from. But unfortunately... it's not a blanket issue. We don't just let people do whatever they want in society if it can damage someone else. So I don't know if Buzzwoofer, you missed watching the woman who just said, my daughter was killed by somebody that was high on medical marijuana. Well, you know what? It's not really enough just to say you can smoke it, but you can't drive. So then you're still telling somebody what they can and cannot do.
Right.
Well, no, they're behind a vehicle.
Can you drink and drive? You think it should be illegal to drink and drive? That's a really... if you think that, smoking pot and driving should be okay, do you think that drinking and driving should be illegal?
Right.
Because thousands of people die every year.
Right. Because
of drunk drivers. My dad was a drunk driver.
Right.
And he took our lives into his hands.
Right.
Multiple times, and we almost died several times. It's not okay to drive drunk. It's not okay to drive high. It's not okay to put your life, put somebody else's life in danger, or to hurt someone else, or to encourage someone else.
Right, and that's what my mom was saying, because I want to bring this back, because we've spent way too much time on this, but it's really a pertinent subject.
Well, you got to stay in the realm that you know, and this is the realm that we know.
Right. It's kind of like she said, if you're going to be encouraging this for someone else that may be weaker than you are, then the blood is on your hands.
Right.
It's just that that's really what it boils down to.
Right.
And so if you're going to think and have these thoughts, you know what, I think that it should be legal or something like that. When it comes to this kind of thing...
Here's the thing. What I tell people is, you know what? You can live without pot. You can live without it, right? Like, you can totally live without. Life might not be as awesome as you think it is, right? So, if my libertarian friends were all about liberty... and freedom, they would focus on things that are really damaging.
And that's what
to
really
people.
Gets me. Like, why is this the subject that everybody wants to use?
Because they like getting high. They're drug addicts. But listen, raw milk isn't legal in a lot of states. And like in Ohio, you can't go in the grocery store and buy raw milk. But in other countries, you can't buy raw milk. In California, you can buy raw milk in a state that it's legal to buy.
Right.
And so why not fight for things like farmer rights? Why not fight to get rid of property taxes first? I'm going to put my efforts into doing things to bring people real liberty and real freedom. And one of those big things is eliminating property taxes, because you're never going to be free. That's why you have to get high.
Right.
Because you're not free.
Right.
Farmers in America, they got too much time. If you can get high, you have way too much time on your hands.
True.
Because while you're high, you're not doing anything productive.
And can you be a parent and smoke pot?
No, you can't be. This is where I get really angry about it, because I seriously have been around. My dad was drunk, right? I have been around high people. I've been at adult settings where people were doing drugs and talking about doing drugs. Okay, it is child abuse to be drunk or high around your child, because what if they fall? What if they need you to put a Band-Aid on them?
Right.
What if they just need you to talk to them? Your mind isn't there.
Right.
People know, like, when mom goes down, if mom's sick.
Right.
What do you do when mom's sick? Mom goes down, the world falls apart, right?
Right.
I know moms who are high are all not doing what they need to be doing for their kids. Okay? And I love some of these people who have been high, and I've been around them. Okay? It's if you got to be able to give your best to the people around you.
And I guess for those of you that are with Leah and I on this page, and you're kind of like, but there are the questions, like, how do I explain this to somebody? And I'm going to say this, and it's probably going to not really give you much of an answer, but this is just the truth. When it comes to the liberty movement, all right, we all want to say, well, if we're going to give everybody their liberty, libertarians, we want to have our raw milk. We don't want to be told what we can and cannot build, things like that, or how, regulations and stuff. And you guys know how we feel about all that. And then when it comes to the pot issue, then the brakes go on and everybody's like, well, wait a minute. How can I want to be liberty minded here and not here? It's called common sense. And it is okay to be able to be intelligent enough to differentiate between someone's personal liberties to buy and sell raw milk, to build without regulations that are just overreaching, things like that, and to say, you know what? This is getting high. This is something that we all know as society brings society down. And that is what makes it wrong. And so I have no problem with the people saying, oh, this isn't liberty. You're not really libertarians. You don't really want freedom. This has nothing to do with freedom. Because I actually have an intelligence that can say there is a difference. I can look at it and analyze and say that is freedom. But your freedom to get high is a societal damaging thing. Now, Lee and I are totally willing to go with the medical marijuana that you don't smoke. We're willing to go with growing hemp. Our founding fathers were totally down with that. All right. But when it comes to being able to smoke it in order to just get high, we know that as a society, that is very, very damaging. And so that's how I'm going to break it down to you guys.
We all know that every time you're around a pothead,
it's a simple
they're
thing.
Not there.
Right.
How is this a thing?
Right.
And I'm not, you know what? And this is not my cross to die on. If the whole country legalizes pot, I'm not going to be out there with anti-pot signs. Okay? I am not.
I got bigger fish to fry.
I do, but I will logically say no one should smoke pot to get high.
Yeah.
And that's my libertarian right to say it.
Exactly. And that's the difference. This is our channel, and that's why I love that we have a channel and we can say whatever we want. It's my libertarian right to say it. You have the right not to watch it if you don't like it, but I think a lot of our viewers completely understand
I don't think people should drink to get drunk.
Exactly.
Okay, the Bible says we're Christians, right? Paul says, hey, listen, have a little wine for your stomach.
Right.
Okay, Jesus drank wine.
Right.
I don't got a problem with you drinking. Drink as much as you want, as long as you're not getting drunk. Because as soon as you get to that place where you're drunk, you can become a harm to other people. You're not going to remember things correctly.
Right.
At least I know personally from being a person who has never been drunk.
Right.
Being around people my entire life, from the time I was an infant, I was around people who were drunk. Hundreds of them. And the only one.
There was nothing positive that ever came out of it.
My Uncle Jack. We take care of him. He was addicted to alcohol since the time he was 12. I drove him up to the pub and back. If he were to stop drinking, he would die. He was that dependent on alcohol.
For those of you that don't know that, it is really important. If you have somebody that's really, really a heavy alcoholic, they cannot just stop drinking.
Right, exactly.
They could die.
If you can stop, then stop. But if you can't, seek help. Know that you are disabled at that point.
Right.
If you can't stop drinking, you're disabled. And so I will love you, and I will care for you, and I will pray for you until you get to a place where you can get help, as long as you know that you need help. My uncle, when we came to take care of him, he didn't want to be an alcoholic.
Right.
He didn't know how to stop, and we didn't know how to get him to stop because he wasn't mentally all the way there. Okay, so the psychologist couldn't help him.
I want to read what Billy Knight Train quotes here. 1 Peter 4:7. But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer.
But when we took care of our uncle, when people know, the psychologist said they couldn't help him as long as he had alcohol. Alcohol dependency people couldn't help him as long as he wasn't all the way there. Okay?
So you know what we did? And this is the answer. And if you guys can't go with us this far, then you're watching the wrong channel. I have to tell you. The answer is that we sought God. What do? We are totally against alcohol. Our dad was an alcoholic. It ruined our parents' marriage. It ruined our childhood. Alcohol is the devil. We come into a situation where our uncle is dependent upon it. What do? We bought it. We would go downtown and we would buy cases of scotch, okay, for this man. We would buy 30 packs of alcohol. We are the girls, the religious girls. Okay, we would buy his cigarettes. We did all this because God said just to love him. God didn't say to pull it from him. God said, love him, love him.
He was going to walk up and go get it himself.
Right.
And he couldn't carry it back, and he was going to get himself hurt.
Right.
And eventually, after how many years did we do that for? He didn't get clean until after Grandma died, right?
So 4 years, 5 years.
5 years. 5 years. We love
doing
this man.
That over and over and over again.
He went into the hospital. He had a seizure.
He had a seizure?
He had a seizure. Mm-hmm. Matt had just moved in. He had a seizure. We couldn't get him out of the bathtub.
And why did he have a seizure?
Because
his potassium was so low because he was drinking so much and he was peeing it out.
And he almost died. He passed out. We couldn't get him up. And we had to call 911. And Matt helped him get him up. And the 911 won't take you if you can coherently say, "Don't take me." But he luckily was gone. He wasn't coherent. He was gone. They took him to the hospital. The doctors that saw him told us later they thought he was going to die.
Right.
They told us he had 6 months to live if he kept drinking. But what he had been doing was weaning himself off of alcohol. He would he went down from
in his beer and scotch.
Over the years. He really didn't want to drink. He hated drinking.
Right.
He went from a case of beer like in a day and a half. I'm not even kidding you. To like 2 or 3 a day with ice in it. And he wouldn't eat because he thought he was fat. Well, what happened was he had a giant stomach full of gallons of water. And because he wouldn't eat,
right.
If he had eaten, he would have been okay. And all of his numbers were off. He was literally on death's door.
Right.
And while he was in the hospital, the doctors were going to give him medicine in case he was going to detox.
And they told us, they were like, you're going to have to be ready for this. He's going to detox. It's going to be so bad.
And he's going to start yelling at you and screaming at you. But he didn't. Because over the years, he had slowly weaned himself off of alcohol. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't as alcohol dependent. He really wasn't alcohol dependent anymore. Right. 2 or 3 a day. But everything else was in whack. And we told him, if you come back, you're not going to drink again, because he had weaned himself off. Before we couldn't do it because he was still on it, and it was time. Right. It was time. He was ready.
And he was ready, and the doctors pretty much said he has to stop drinking or he'll die.
Or he was going to have to go into a nursing home because we were going to have to do all this stuff for him. And he said, at first he said, okay, won't do it. They said he would, and he sat in his chair and he said, I need a beer and a scotch. And we said, no. Home. He got angry. And it just kind of...
He never drank after that.
He never drank after that. And that was in 2012. 2012, 5 years. 5 years.
5 years sober.
5 years sober.
The following April, he got tongue cancer and he quit smoking. Now, I want to tell you guys something, because for those of you that are still with us, I know that you guys are loyal viewers, because I know we had some trolls there, and that's fine. They don't belong here. But you guys need to know this about Leah and I. How amazing it is, the single most amazing miracle that I ever saw in my entire life. My cousins, my uncle's sons, when we told them, my uncle was in the hospital, and we said, we're going to bring your dad home, but he's never going to drink again. And my cousin, who I love dearly like a brother, said to me, Michelle, I understand what you're saying, but I know my dad, and that will never happen. He will never stop drinking. He's a Christian, my cousin. And I don't fault him for that, okay?
Because he didn't know what God had been doing over the past 5 years.
And he had been burned so many times by watching his dad go downhill and heartbroken. And so I get it. But I say it, and I let you guys know that we serve a mighty God who does not want us on substances.
If Jesus had walked on water in front of me,
it would not have been more of a miracle. People around town knew my uncle. He used to work up at the station his entire life. He worked up at the pub.
No one
would believe that
he
would have said
stop drinking.
That he would stop drinking. And he is a walking miracle man. He's quit smoking. He has quit drinking. He goes to the gym
3 days a week.
His mind is back.
We've been on trips with him. He also was afraid to go anywhere. Like he had like social anxiety, and he still does. But we've taken him on some trips, and he's a miracle.
And it started out with us not being these hypocritical. So I want you guys to know who we are. So we have more than I would say most people, a foundation to stand on when we say these things are wrong. Yet we understand when a situation calls for the spirit of the law instead of the letter of the law. And that's the difference between Leah and I and most other people in most other channels.
When I say alcohol is bad, when I say pot is bad, because it's hurting the person whether they know it or not.
Exactly.
It's hurting them.
Right. But if we were so if the situation, if I had to do it all over again, I would still go and buy my uncle the alcohol. I would still go buy the scotch. I would still go buy the cigarettes. And the Christians would just, oh my gosh, you can't do that. Who are you? You're ruining his life. No, we listened to the voice of the Holy Spirit and we trusted God outside of what it looked like. And that's what you have to.
There's a scripture
to go to.
Here's the thing. This is how you know whether you should help somebody in your life or not who's addicted.
Right.
God gives grace to the humble, but resists the proud. If somebody is in a humble position and they're saying, I don't want to be like this.
Right.
I need help.
Right.
You help them until the very end.
Right.
But if someone is saying, I got this, I'm cool, I got this, I'm under control, you gotta let them fall. You gotta let them fall. You gotta let them get to rock bottom until they need Jesus.
Very, very true. So, listen, I know this has gotten completely off train, and somebody, I don't even know who they were in the chat, like, oh my gosh, this turned into Dr. Phil. Well, guess what, guys? One problem that I have with the modern day church is the fact that they don't actually give real answers to anyone. It's a motivational speech. So Leah and I can get up here and we can give you the news, or we can treat you guys with respect like family and say, listen, we have answers. We've been through these things, and this is what we have discovered through it. And we can also, what I love about the live chat is go to you guys, what has happened to you, so that you guys can also in the live chat encourage each other. The Resistance Chicks is not just news. It's a family, and you guys know it. And that's why we take the time. If the Holy Spirit is going to lead, whether you're Christian or not, that's up to you. But this is our show, and this is how we do it. If God's going to lead somewhere, I don't know who may have needed to hear this message.
Well, we've gotten messages. We've gotten messages, several messages of people saying, when we go off on a topic like this, then we'll end up, I guarantee you we're going to end up a ton of messages. Because that's what happens. When we go off a topic like this, we get people saying, I once was in a lesbian relationship. Now what do I do?
Right.
Oh, Lord, Jack, I haven't been down that road, but let me tell you, Jesus loves you.
Right.
That's one road I haven't been down. I haven't experienced that, so let me just, let me just,
can't help you
let
there.
me do my best here.
Exactly. Let's see. Baker Mom says, ladies, thank you for being open to Holy Spirit and thereby blessing your uncle. Thank you for that comment, Baker Mom. John Lamorgue says, beautiful ending. Praise God for that. Jack Russell says, addiction is a terrible thing. Billy Night Train says, my brother quit after 30 years, still sober 5 years now. That's absolutely
like the same time as
amazing.
Uncle Jack. What month was it?
It kind of is exactly the same.
July, 5 years ago.
Yeah. Lena says that doctors prescribe painkillers are more addictive than cocaine, and the results are deadly too. So that's really worth mentioning. Let me see. Redneck Survivalist says, I promised God I would never drink again, and I am not someone to bring down the wrath of God, but it was killing me anyways. Sicilian Gal says, I've been sober for 26 years. It is a struggle. Thank you for that, Christine. Kelly says, great way of saying that, Michelle. You helped your uncle and let God heal him as he's ready. Britt Baza says, Michelle, you had no choice in that choice because your uncle would have gone for it one way or the other. Very, very true. Lena says, it's always easy to say ask God when one has God, but many don't and need deliverance. Exactly. They need to be allowed to fall. And that is very true. Very, very true. Shawnee Show says, it is possible. You are right. I am 13 years sober myself, and well done at Sicilian Gal. That is awesome. So here's the thing. That's what I love about this. Christopher Farina says, I've struggled with addiction my whole life. Wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
That's the thing when you're trying to tell people,
right?
It's not that you're beating people over the head for being addicts. That's not it at all. But when we talk about pot, with pot people, most of these pot people haven't gone to the next level,
right.
And it's horrifying when you're just like, hey kids, it's okay to run around with
Listen, I also tell kids that they shouldn't sleep outside of marriage. I tell this to adults as well. Jack says, 12 years clean of tobacco just doesn't have the same ring about it, does it? Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. That's even
massive.
harder. I have actually heard that quitting
from what I understand,
tobacco is harder than alcohol.
Yeah.
And actually, wasn't it Uncle Jack who said the cigarettes are worse than the...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Uncle Jack
He said,
that.
he said, it's hard.
He said, I don't have cravings for alcohol anymore. I still do have cravings for cigarettes, but, but he still is completely free. And we know because we drive him everywhere he goes. He can't get the stuff, like literally. He can't. So I want to thank you guys for being a part of this conversation because it is really important. And obviously this is what God wanted us to cover. Chris, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but he started out this show saying that he recently quit smoking and he's struggling. He's irritable. And I can understand maybe that was a New Year's resolution that you decided to make. And so here at Resistance Chicks, we are going to support you. I would encourage you. Obviously, God is one awesome answer for this. But there are a lot of like natural remedies. Not just remedies, that sounds really stupid to say, but natural things that can really, really help.
And there again, I want to encourage you, but don't feel bad. Like, here's the thing. It's one thing to say, I'm stuck on something, right? It's another thing to say, I'm going to do it and I don't care.
Right.
Okay? So if you're stuck on something, then God will give you so much grace. Okay,
Right.
I'm going to follow her and stand. I want to God will give you so much grace. So don't beat yourself up on the over the head. Okay,
Right.
That's not what we're trying to say. But those pop people, man, they are something else.
Chris says, I have to stay home for the next few days. Quitting smoking has me crazy. I can imagine. I definitely can imagine. Lena says, my mom being an alcoholic, I vowed never to let myself get that way. And that's where Leah and I are at with our dad being an alcoholic and having it so much around us. That's why we just don't touch alcohol. However, we do make our elderberry syrup for colds and stuff like that. It has vodka in it, but you just have to use wisdom. And if you're one of those people, I would say don't do it. If you're one of those people that might be prone to it, don't make the elderberry syrup. I don't care. You just struggle through being sick. It's better to do that than to have a natural remedy that
you can make it without.
You can make it without the vodka. So yes, Chris, we are absolutely praying for you and with you. So there we go. Do you have any other news that we can cover?
No, we need to go to Poland.
All right. So what we're going to do here, for anybody that wants to stick with us, we're going to sign off here. And then I'm going to load our Polish greeting so that you guys can watch it actually right in the box.
Are we going to be in the box?
We're going to be in a little corner.
I'm really excited about this because they made it just for us, but for all of America. So
right, but they did it because of us, I guess you could say. So I'm really, really excited about that.
For y'all.
Okay, Dale Jones says, can Scripture overcome an actual addiction?
That's kind of a different. It's an interesting way you should put that. Scripture alone, just reading it as a word, no, because it's just a word, right?
Right.
But Jesus is the word,
right?
And so the closer you get to Christ, the more things will fall off of you. And I'm not gonna tell everybody who is addicted to something that they're immediately gonna be set free from something. And I'm not mad at any. I don't want to dog anybody who's addicted to anything. But the closer you get to Christ, He will fill those things. Find out why you're addicted in the first place.
Right.
What caused the addiction? Was it abuse as a childhood? Was it, what was it what brokenness? Addiction is a brokenness in the mind. And so, yes, Jesus can definitely go into that place and heal that part of your mind.
Right.
Absolutely, He can and will. But unlike the crazy name it, claim it preachers who go around and tell everybody as soon as they get saved, everything's going to fall off.
Oh,
it's not going to work that way for everybody.
Patriot Gallery.
Well, the Jewish people always had Scripture, but the anointing and power of the Holy Spirit
breaks the
yoke.
yoke.
People inspire them and give them the word. The word is worthless without faith.
Right.
The word's worthless without love.
Right.
And basically, Jesus said, if I don't go, the Comforter won't come.
Right.
And so Jesus died on that cross and suffered and took all that punishment so that we could be forgiven. And then the Holy Spirit, which is the power of God.
Right.
And then you have to have the anointing of God and have that Holy Spirit that old prophets had, and David had, and Solomon had, and Saul had. The Holy Spirit comes on Elijah, and all these people. It's the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Without it, forget it.
Forget it. So, Deb, I missed your comment, and I'm really sorry about that, but I did find it. Deb Wood says, I have been clean and sober 12 years now. I'm also a community health worker now and work with the homeless. That's why I spoke up. If you had a comment before that, I didn't see it, but I did want to address your amazing
Bravo,
feed there.
Deb.
That's
Bravo.
just, Leah and I have never had to struggle with an addiction. So on a personal level, we've not hurdled that mountain, but we have helped people who have. And so our sympathy and our hearts go out with watching with you, with having watched our loved ones struggle so much. All right. So I think that wraps us up.
Come back to Poland with us. Like, we're literally going to Poland.
We literally are going to Poland. Did you want to end with any kind of song? What was the song I was singing today? In the car.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was like Sandy Patty or something.
It was Twyla Paris or something about God is in control. We believe that his children will not be forsaken. God is in control. I don't remember the next part.
I knew that you weren't really doing the words right in the car.
Can I make them up? We believe in his word and will never be shaken. Something like that. You got the lyrics for me? I'll bring it down. We'll sing it lower. Where's the lyrics?
Unfortunately, we aren't authorized to display these lyrics.
Are you serious? Oh, for crying out loud.
How do you spell Twyla Paris?
Twyla.
Yeah.
Twila. I love that song. I haven't heard it since I was a kid. It just came to me in the car. I was telling Leah God was in control.
You're just going to get the chorus.
Yeah,
You don't know how it begins.
But wait a minute, go down. That can't be the right.
He has never let you down. Why start to worry now? Why start to worry now? He is still the Lord of everything, and he is still a loving Father, watching over you and me.
Watching over you.
Watching over me.
Every little sparrow, every little thing. Whoa, oh, God is in control. Whoa, God is in control. Whoa, God is in control. Go back to the chorus.
It's right there.
He has never let you down. Why start to worry now? Why start to worry now? He is still the Lord of everything, and he is still a loving Father, watching over you and me. God is in control. We believe that his children will not be forsaken. God is in control. We will choose to remember and never be shaken. There is no power above or beside him, we know. Whoa, God is in control. Whoa, God is in control. That's a good song to end on. I like that. So I know there's a lot more to it. I can't remember this. Dude, y'all can just Google it because we can't play music in the background or they copyright our videos and I can't download them and put them on Resistance Chicks. But go, God is in control. Twyla Paris, listen to that. I promise you, you will be uplifted.
Who sings the better? Twyla Paris.
Dude, yeah, she totally sings. Dude, girl can sing. She can sing. We grew up on her. She's fantastic.
Okay,
all right, so we're going to sign off. We love you. God loves you. God bless. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory.
If it's the truth.
All right, you guys. See you back here in a few.
I was cold, all alone. No place for home every day. So afraid, but you called my name.